We have to stay home, but we still can celebrate our good moments. Don't miss the human touch with Sitecore Hugs. This episode is brought to you by Alturo. Since 2004, we help companies realize business values with Sitecore. Visit our booth by scanning the QR code or reach out to us. Ask at alturo.co. The Sitecore Symposium is the biggest and most awaited event in our community. With information and entertainment, this is the perfect chance for the community to come together and enjoy everything new on Sitecore. To celebrate this very important event, I had this amazing conversation with the amazing Paige O'Neill. Welcome to Sitecore Hugs. I am Rodrigo Peplau, your Sitecore singer, and today I'm honored to have here none other than Paige O'Neill. Welcome, Paige.
Hi, Rodrigo. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to do this.
Well, we are really excited to have you here. Before we start speaking about Symposium, I would like to give you the chance to speak a little bit about your past.
I've been in the B2B tech industry for, longer than I'd like to admit, going on like 20 plus years now. I started my career back in like the mid-90s on the PR side, working for IBM. And I was living in New York at that time, so started working for IBM. And then I moved out, of course, to California to participate in the full tech economy, went to work for Oracle and worked for them for about 10 years. And somewhere in the middle there of my Oracle career, I moved from PR over to product marketing. And so I made that transition, and then I stayed at Oracle for several more years after that on the product marketing side. And then I started getting head of marketing roles at early stage startup companies. I worked at a public company as a CMO early on in my days. And then, a couple of years on, I started getting roles in MarTech companies, which is, kind of what introduced me to the space that Sitecore is in. And so I think I've been a CMO. This is my 7th time as a CMO. I love the MarTech space. I love the Sitecore community. So yeah, I feel like I've just been really fortunate in my career to work for so many different interesting companies, kind of culminating with Sitecore.
One constant in everything I read about you is the importance that you give to the human touch.
I think that's always kind of been, even when I didn't really recognize it, I think that the heart of marketing is really making that connection with the customer and trying to evoke, at least for me, trying to evoke some kind of emotion. And so, my team probably gets tired of me saying, I don't see the emotion in this when they present something to me. Because I think, you want to make people feel it, kind of right here and have that human connection. And so, I've always kind of approached marketing that way for many years. The way that businesses going forward really want to understand their customers and understand it from that point of empathy and really putting themselves in the customer's shoes.
I tend to think that empathy is also very important in other factors, not just in marketing.
Yeah, absolutely. And, for me, it always kind of starts with the team. And, whenever anybody asks me what I like most about my job, it doesn't take me long to start getting into talking about the people, because I think that, we all put so much of ourselves into our jobs and our work. And if you're not surrounding yourselves with people that you enjoy working with, then, I think you're missing out. What's happened with the pandemic, with everybody being so shut in, hopefully we're getting out now a little bit more, but with everyone being so shut in, it's, one of the reasons that you started Sitecore Hugs, right? Because you wanted to kind of reach out virtually and just hug the community because you couldn't see each other in person. And I think the same is absolutely true. I've talked to so many leaders during the pandemic about how do you keep teams, motivated, engaged, feeling good about the company's support of them, making sure you understand what they need when they've had to work from home, have kids at home, have to deal with either themselves or family members being sick. And so it becomes so important to understand that we're now in this environment where we're working from home, were not just sitting there dedicated to work. Those things have become normalized, and I don't hear people apologizing anymore for, oh gosh, sorry, my kid just ran in and interrupted the meeting, or oh wow, sorry, the dog's barking. Well, this is just something that we're all dealing with as human beings, and we don't have to apologize for it anymore. We're just getting on with it, and it doesn't mean that we're not very productive at our jobs. And so I think that's something that leaders have recognized and really taken an opportunity to embrace in organizations.
2018 was your first edition, right? You were just a newcomer at that time. So tell us about your experience, how that feels.
So 2018, I think I started at Sitecore in early July of that year, and Symposium was coming very quickly in October. And so I remember coming in, and I didn't really have the full grasp of just how big Symposium was, even at that time, and it's much bigger now. And so, there were many decisions that had already been made. And so, it was really kind of my job to come in, lead the team, make sure we could execute on a lot of the stuff that was in motion. I tried to put some of my stamp on it, but, then getting there on site, I just remember having so many interactions with the community. I from the second I got on site and people started arriving, people were coming up to me, introducing themselves, talking about how excited they were to have me at the company. And I didn't expect that. I didn't expect that to be so warmly embraced by the community. People wanted to have selfies taken with me. They were giving me gifts and Sitecore pillows and all kinds of. And I remember having many interactions with some of the developers around the pins and understanding how the pins and the history of the different what the symbols on the pins meant. And I had no exposure to any of that stuff prior to actually getting on site at Symposium. And so I just remember how excited I was to see the passion of the community and everything that unfolded. I'd given keynotes before, but I'd never given a keynote on a stage that large before. And so I was incredibly nervous about those first couple of speaking opportunities. And we had the amazing participation from, I think we had Sick Kids and Cannondale in my keynote. And the Sick Kids story was so powerful. I loved bringing that to the stage. So I just remember I was meeting Jake Johannsen for the first time. I remember so many exciting moments from that conference and just the things that were going on in preparation. I believe that was the first year so Mick Ebling actually had a keynote that year, right? So we featured them. He was our keynote speaker, and I think it was the first time that we brought the Not Impossible story into the community. And obviously we featured that many times. I feel like I talk about Not Impossible on LinkedIn all the time because they're always doing such amazing work. But they're just, Mick is incredible. They're an incredible company. I don't know if you just saw, I just posted a couple of weeks ago a video that I just did with them about their new Hunger Not Impossible initiative, which is now spinning out into a new company called Bento, and the concept of it is just genius. They've partnered with everyday restaurants that might have excess food, and they're allowing people that might need a meal to just text, and they'll get menu options, and they can go pick up a meal just like anybody would pick up that's ordering online. And it's just a genius way to use Sitecore technology.
And after that, we got 2019. We didn't know it was the last in-person event.
Would we feel like that was so perfect if COVID wouldn't have happened afterwards? Because it was just, no doubt it was, at least in my mind, and I think you agree, it was a fantastic event. But in hindsight, right, it's not going to be the last symposium. We're hopefully going to do it again in person next year. But for the last couple of years, we've been in COVID. But yeah, that event for me, I feel the same, that it just was such a highlight. I felt like that was really my symposium that I was able to shape from the very beginning. And, obviously we were back in Orlando again. So we were familiar with, kind of the setup, which eased the team's perspective of things. And I just felt like we had such a great theme with the human connections in a digital world. And it resonated with everyone that was there. We had so many customer stories. I remember that I had, Cirque du Soleil in my keynote, and I remember the moment where he tried to get me to do the backflip, and we were all wondering, well, is he actually going to do a backflip on stage? And that was a moment that was pretty unscripted, that, wasn't really sure what was going to happen. It was just really fun.
1, 2, come on, guys. I'm a marketer, not an acrobat.
And again, right, the interactions with the community, just the passion. I remember Jake introducing me to you at that symposium for the first time. I think that's the first time we met in person, and you came and sang on stage, which was an incredible moment, right?
You kept looking at me like I'm such a freak. I can't free nobody. You kept looking at me like I'm such a freak. I can't free nobody. She's a woman, you know what I mean. You gotta listen to me. She gotta set you free. Oh, yeah.
Not easy to sing at 8 a.m. in the morning, in that high tune. And in the Swan and Dolphin had a karaoke bar in place, so it was so convenient.
Luckily, there weren't many people around to witness that, but I myself took a turn at that sushi restaurant at the karaoke bar. So all of those things, I think, came together, and we just felt so positive about the show. Had such a great time at Universal Studios, interacting with everybody. So just, absolutely fantastic.
I also remember from that day that you were so busy on stage, and you were looking very, very comfortable with that. But tell me how it is to be inside that persona.
Well, I think persona is the right word too, because this is something I haven't experienced before coming to Sitecore, which is that you go to a big event like that, and you're on stage with thousands of people, and everyone at the entire event knows who you are. So you're walking around, and you know that everyone knows who you are, and you do kind of feel like you're trying to continue that stage performance a little bit, but still want to have genuine interactions with people, which I think is quite easy to do. So I enjoy that aspect of it very much. But I think I mentioned that I was very nervous for the first symposium. By this time, I won't say I didn't have any nerves at all, because you always have a little bit of butterflies before you go out into the main stage, but not anything like it was the year before. I felt like I had really crafted that keynote, every aspect of it. I think 6 months before Symposium, we started recruiting for the customers that we were going to have in the keynote. It was very well prepared and rehearsed, and I felt fantastic about it.
It's that human connection, that emotion that we're trying to spark, that can be so powerful and really take our experiences to the next level.
Next year, everything changed, and we got the pandemic.
It was a disappointment, right? I think it would be dishonest to say anything but that we were incredibly disappointed to not be able to have the in-person symposium. I know everyone in the community felt that way. My team absolutely felt that way. And even though I'm, super proud of the show that we put on, I don't think anyone would say that it was a worthy substitution for an in-person event. And it was completely different, right? Because, delivering those presentations in an empty studio in front of a TV camera is just completely different than the energy you get from that live audience, right? You can't possibly replicate that. But I always like to look at, and there were so many positives that year, right? I think we had a great theme, moments that make the experience. We were kind of carrying on forward from the human connections motif. I felt like, the speakers all got a whole different learning. We went from thinking about how do you prepare a presentation for a live audience to thinking about how do you prepare it for essentially a television studio. And so that's great learning, right? It's great to have that in your toolkit as a presenter. And we wanted to try to make it as interactive as possible with the community. And so we tried to, set that up in the platform. We had some great moments. We, of course, about a month before the show, Sitecore got a new CEO, right? We had Steve Tsakakis come in. I think he joined about 5 weeks before Symposium. And so that was obviously incredibly exciting for Sitecore, the whole company, and being able to introduce him to the community. Steve got such a warm welcome from the community. And I think that it's probably a theme that carries through for Sitecore Community and just in general is, we've had a lot of change at Sitecore in the last couple of years in particular as we've gone through just significant growth, and we've had a lot of new executives come into the mix, and the community is always so supportive and so welcoming, and that makes such a big difference when somebody's stepping in to a new role to feel like they've got the support of the community. So he had his debut, and it was I think we put on a great show despite some very difficult circumstances. One of the things that was great about the whole recording experience for the 2020 symposium was that, I got to see Jake in person because he came to San Francisco. He lives in LA. He came up to San Francisco, and we were able to hang out. He and I actually went out to dinner, and this was right in the kind of the height of COVID, and so everybody's wearing masks and the restaurants were barely open. But I remember we were able to go out and have a nice dinner, and really just catch up. And he was, of course, cracking everybody up backstage, and so making really funny things happen as there's always laughter going on when Jake is around. So it was great to see him in person. I hadn't seen him, really since the last year. So that was a highlight for sure. Yeah, and so here we are again. We've got Symposium kicking off, and we're digital again, right? So I think that a lot has changed and a lot will be different this year. First of all, I think we're used to we were hoping to do some kind of a hybrid event, and we had thought maybe we could do an event in New York, but with the Delta variant, it just didn't feel like it was the right thing to do. So we're back to all digital. But I think we learned so much from last year, 2020. A year's gone forward. I think we all understand, at least on the marketing side, how to do these digital events a lot better. Even though I think we did a great job in 2020, I think we'll have improvements. We switched out our event platform, so it'll be even more interactive. And then the program, and we just announced this morning that John Legend is going to be joining us as the entertainer. So we're continuing as we grow so rapidly to just kind of up the ante for the content that we have at Symposium. We've also got Bozoma St. John, who's the CMO of Netflix. I mean, I can't imagine a more relevant marketer to have talking about what's happening in the digital experience world. I mean, Netflix, pioneer of digital experience. So I think all that's going to just be really exciting. We're also, I'm going to be heading to London on Saturday. First time I'm traveling internationally since COVID. So haven't been to London in 18 months, and I'm going to be meeting our CEO for the first time in person, and he and I are going to be delivering our keynotes live, and we are going to have a small employee audience there as we do the live kickoff for Symposium. So all of those things, I think, give us a little bit of extra buzz as presenters, and something nice to do for the employees. Enhance the partner agenda, kind of upping the ante on the keynotes, and I just think it's hopefully going to be a fantastic event. We're really looking forward to it. We're expecting 10,000 people. Can you imagine that? Rodrigo, thank you so much for inviting me. I've seen a few editions of Sitecore Hugs, and I think this has been a great thing that you've done for the community at a time when you guys weren't able to get together in person as often as you'd like. Even though you may not realize it, like the executive team at Sitecore, we see things that are happening in the community, and we see the support, and we feel the appreciation, the passion, the love, and we just appreciate it so much. So I feel honored to be part of this community.